Hey there, scholarly gamers, and welcome to this week's episode of Jungle Drums. I am joined by my good friend Gim Boyd.
Hello, hello.
How are we doing this evening? Well, this afternoon. It's usually evening time, but no, it's this afternoon today.
Yeah. I normally set my sleeping pattern right, but I did sleep till about 2 o'clock or so.
I was the same. I was up fairly late myself, but then I was up early because we had a bunch of stuff to do this morning. Because usually I would have just recorded this earlier, but you know, things got in the way. So here we are. Right. So where to begin? Well, if you're into your tech, you know, especially when it comes to PC gaming, you've no doubt been keeping an eye out for the new cards coming out from Nvidia. Of course, those are the RTX series, the 2080, the 2080 Ti, 2070, and then of course the other ones as they're released. But you know, they're not out yet. You could pre-order the Founders Editions directly from Nvidia. The AIB, the add-in board partners variant should be available in the not too distant future. But the things that we were waiting patiently for were the actual performance benchmarks, because if you keep in mind when these cards were announced at the Nvidia keynote speech, there was no real performance data. You know, as far as data that made sense to us, they were using all these new terminology, ray tracing, ray flops, ray computation, and it didn't give you an apples to apples comparison with the Pascal, the 10 series of cards, and obviously older cards. But so now, just this week, the embargo lifted on the review scores, and it's been really, really interesting. If you go around on YouTube, you'll see a whole bunch of tech tubers have already published their thoughts and their benchmark results. But so for the sake of Jungle Drums, I just pulled up this article from arstechnica.com. And the headline is NVIDIA RTX 2080 and 20 Ti review, a tale of two very expensive graphics cards. And I do like the little the subtitle here. Remember when $700 seemed like a lot of money for a top-of-the-line GPU? Quaint times. That is one of the biggest issues that people have with the RTX cards at the moment, is the pricing. The pricing is just completely different. To put in this perspective, a 2080 right now is probably on par with what the 1080 Ti was at launch when it comes to pricing, and the 2080 Ti is about the same price as what the flagship Titan cards were. So the pricing model has taken a huge leap upwards, which, if the performance was a huge leap upwards, would also be, quite impressive. People would most likely be more prone to pay that extra money. And that's what kind of happened in the hype in the lead up to the release of these video cards, was the belief that a 2080 was just going to wipe the floor with a 1080 Ti. And at least that was the hope, because depending what part of the world you're in, the 2080 and a 1080 Ti are probably similar pricing, and in some areas a 1080 Ti is actually cheaper. So I think a lot of people were expecting a significant increase. And to be fair, in previous generations that hasn't always necessarily happened. I mean, usually when you look at like the 980 to the 1080, the 980 Ti to the 1080 Ti, yes, there is, that performance increase. And it's the same with the 10th gen and now this 20 series card. If you compare a 1080 to a 2080, yes, there's a nice significant, anywhere between 20-30% performance increase. And the same can be said of the 1080 Ti to the 2080 Ti. So the performance increase excuse me, is about on par with previous generations. The problem is the pricing. When you look at the price to performance ratio, you're paying possibly, about 177% more for a 30% increase in performance. And that is what people have a really big problem with. Now, I mean, there's all sorts of benchmark scores out there, but this one from Ars Technica, let me pull up. What should we do? Why don't we do Grand Theft Auto 5, right? Grand Theft Auto 5 is a great benchmark. A lot of folks still use it. So this is at 4K Ultra, FXAA, anti-aliasing. So quite demanding. And this graph, if we start from the bottom, shows a 980 Ti, manages an average of 48 frames per second. Whereas a 1080 Ti manages 79. And this is what gets people upset, because a 2080, which they figured was going to outperform a 1080 Ti, as you can see in this one benchmark, doesn't. It barely, it's just a few frames behind. Whereas when they overclock it, now it finally goes a little bit above. But then when you look at the difference in price for, say, the 2080 Ti, which, $1,100? It's only going up to 90 frames. If we take Shadow of the Tomb Raider, again, very similar kind of settings here, where you see, once again, it's 4K Ultra, and a 1080 Ti only manages 38, 2080 is only doing 41, a 2080 Ti isn't even hitting 60 frames per second, and this is pretty much what continues on, is that type of a balancing act, or the pecking order. Now, some games do perform better than others. There's some games where a 1080 Ti is actually, outperformed by the new 2080s. But then also, when you look at synthetic benchmarks, like your Time Spy, all the stuff from 3D Mark, yes, the new RTX cards completely blow them away. But the worst thing about this whole launch is two of the key features of the new NVIDIA RTX series of cards. And that is, of course, ray tracing, which, as of right now, no game supports. Yes, we've got promises of the next Battlefield will have it, and other games may feature it, but nothing at the moment. And of course, the other big thing is to do with the computational aspect of these cards. They have a new feature on it. I believe the acronym is SLSS, I think it was. Let me just check my notes here. Where was it hiding? I'm sure it was SLSS or something along those lines. I should have really had this. Oh, where was it hiding? Oh, that's irritating. But anyway, part of the Turing architecture was this ability, to offer like the kind of deep learning computational powers that the Titan cards, that featured on them. And so again, this is going to be a huge, boost when you get into things like AI. As far as like AI within games, the video card will be able to handle quite a bit of that. And again, it's another feature that is one of the biggest selling points of the NVIDIA RTX series, and there isn't a single thing on the market right now that utilizes it. So you're very much investing in, it's DLSS. Apologies, I thought it was SLSS. That makes more sense because, the D stands for deep. But yeah, it's, you're basically, and I think this is the danger with early adoption, is, you're going to buy something that isn't quite fully supported. Not everything has it yet. It's going to be great because there you are. You're a member of the Cool Kids Club. But for someone like, say, myself or maybe other consumers out there that don't early adopt, and I'm a bigger fan of this actually, if you just wait it out, because maybe the next generation of video cards or later in the video card's life cycle, they might be just a little bit more refined. I mean, Joe, look at, when we think about consoles, right? How often does a console come out and the very first revision of it, that first kind of generation, has issues? Whereas, like 6 months, a year down the road, they like do a little bit of a system refresh, like whether it's a new transistors or something, within them. And it's the same with video cards and even processors. Drivers are another aspect. The early drivers for the NVIDIA cards are probably not going to be that great. And generally on the past, what we've seen is as drivers for video cards mature, you can expect probably about a 10% performance increase once drivers kind of hit their stride, hit their peak. It was definitely that way with the Ryzen processors. Their driver support was just shocking initially, but now as the platform has matured, they're really, really good. And it's the same with the Vega cards. The AMD Vega cards still aren't great when it comes to price to performance ratio, but as the drivers matured, they did become an overall better package. But what I found really interesting about the RTX launch is it does seem quite unnecessary. There was no reason for these cards to come out. I mean, aside from the fact that, well, the Pascal series, the 10 series of cards, had been out for 2 years. And, that's a long time. Usually, the refreshes or the upgrades come at a slightly faster pace. But there was no real competition from AMD, so it just seems strange that Nvidia's kind of, thrown this launch together. And that's what a lot of the top reviewers, a lot of the top, tech channels on YouTube all tend to agree with that, saying that, it feels quite rushed. And, and the pricing model is just crazy. About almost none of the channels recommend buying these cards unless you have the money just to blow. There's no sense. Okay, if you demand 4K 60 frames per second and higher, much higher, then yeah, there's a reason to have a 2080 Ti. But for over $1,000, it's quite a steep price. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with these cards. Yeah, I mean, they do look nice. Technologically, yes, they're amazing. When you look at the stats, the memory bandwidth, 606 gigabytes a second is outstanding. But like I said, it's just going to be a case of waiting out, see what happens, and see whether the mid-range cards that come out, which aren't going to be featuring ray tracing, I believe. There is going to be a GTX series, so like your 2060, your 2050. If those, give a sizable, or quite a, impressive performance uplift over what is currently out, then those could be a smart buy. But basically the consensus is, if you already own a 10 series card, or even a high-end 9, like say if you've got a 980 Ti, and you're not gaming at 4K, there's probably no reason to upgrade at this point in time. If you've got, a high refresh rate monitor, say at 1440p, okay, there might be a case for you. But if you're, gaming at 1440p at a normal refresh rate, or if you're gaming at 1080, honestly, depending on your resolution, a 1060, 1070, or a 1070 Ti, 1080 and 1080 Ti are probably going to be the better fit for you. And they're going to be a heck of a lot cheaper now because of the 20 series cards coming out. So there you go. We'll just have to watch this space and see what happens. Now, another release that is it's been speculated for ages. The whole classic consoles being re-released as minis. We saw the NES, we saw the Super NES, the Commodore 64 is getting released. There's talk that chances are there'll be a Nintendo 64 and N64 release coming in the near future. Probably for Christmas or something. And so from GameSpot.com, of course, was the news about the PlayStation Classic Mini, which is going to feature 20 PS1 games, and you can already pre-order it. Here's a side-by-side comparison here. If this is the normal, traditional PlayStation 1 here, this is going to be the size of the Mini. The PlayStation Classic is going to be arriving on December 3rd. Now, the complete list of games has not been announced yet. So far, we know that Final Fantasy VII, Jumping Flash, Ridge Racer Type 4, Tekken 3, and Wild Arms will be included. But as far as what the other 15 games are, nobody knows. And it looks like the price point is $100 US, which, depending whether that's if you consider that's a decent value or not, then that's up to you really. What do you think, Gim? I mean, is this just Sony trying to get in on the action after seeing how the Nintendo version sold like hotcakes? I mean, is there a need for this?
I'm not too sure unless I've ever had an original PlayStation. So.
I mean, I can admit that when the original PlayStation came out, I mean, I had one and it was amazing. It was just, it was, as the article even puts it, it was a generation-defining system. It did become synonymous with, if you were playing video games, you were playing PlayStation. But before that, Nintendo, that was the thing. Parents used to always say, oh, yeah, the kids are playing Nintendo, even if they weren't, if they were playing another system. I think PlayStation ended up becoming, very much the same way. But no, everything looks very, very, very similar. If I just pull up another image here, the controllers look, just like they used to way back when. The box art is looking pretty nice. What's interesting here says USB AC adapter is not included. And
yes, it comes on with the USB cable for powering.
And it fits in the palm of your hand. So there. Looks interesting enough. I mean, the thing is, when you look at the sales of the NES Mini, the SNES Classic and stuff, I mean, yeah, this thing, PlayStation is popular. I mean, there's no denying it. And this kind of, reminiscing the nostalgia of older systems, a lot of people jump in, because they think, oh yeah, it used to be amazing. Only to find out that, oh, wait a minute, yeah, some of the old games were not really that great.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. A lot of people look at, because Final Fantasy VII has been announced for it. They go, oh yeah, great game, and then they go and play it, and they realise, really, all those games, it hasn't aged well, and that's what this allegedly, I'm going to say, doing the remake, because I don't know, they ain't ever coming out.
I mean, this is the thing. When I look at stuff like Ridge Racer Type 4, I mean, I was a huge fan of Ridge Racer. So I mean, that somewhat appeals to me. But then thinking of how much racing games have moved on, to like our Gran Turismos and our Forzas, yeah, I have a feeling I'd pick up Ridge Racer Type 4 and be like, oh man, this is horrible. But no, that's amazing. The PlayStation, is gonna December 3rd, which is actually the anniversary of the original PlayStation, which launched on December 3rd, but back in 1994. Yeah, it's been that long. But oh my, but it's quite interesting, because looking at the just some of these statistics here, that I suppose it justifies why Sony is doing this. They do want to get some of this market share, because Nintendo is currently dominating that market when it comes into the category of plug-and-play mini retro consoles. A very specific niche there.
Well, that market was basically just old, cheap Atari games on plug-and-play.
Absolutely.
Have some technology and stuff like that.
What's interesting is the sales of these consoles, these specific ones, the the plug and play minis, they're up 400%. So, the hype or the buzz is definitely working. I just wonder, are they going to have the same kind of supply and demand issues that Nintendo had? Oh, wait a minute, that's right, Nintendo did that on purpose. Yeah.
Amiibo.
Amazing. Now, something that isn't amazing is actually some quite bad news. Grab this off a PC Gamer, and this is to do with the Dead Rising studio. Capcom Vancouver has been shut down. So this was a few days ago that Capcom announced that the games in development at the studio had been terminated. Basically, here's a direct quote from the team at Capcom saying, as a result of reviewing titles in development at Capcom Vancouver, Capcom has decided to cancel the development projects at the studio and will concentrate development on major titles in Japan. A skeleton crew will remain until January 2019 to finalize closure operations and logistics. So yeah, it's, bit of a shame. I mean, Dead Rising 4, which was the last one of the last games, well, not the last game, but the last major release from Capcom Vancouver, released in 2016, was decent. But then they also did a mobile game called Puzzle Fighter, which, from what I gathered, sucked. So much so that earlier this year, Capcom Vancouver had to just lay off a whole bunch of staff. But, even so they did that, and basically, just pretended that Puzzle Fighter never happened. They did state they were dedicated to their, their flagship Dead Rising series. Puzzle Fighter was actually removed from app stores in July, and then the servers were, shut down as well. But this is kind of, this is a bit of shame for fans of the Dead Rising series because, there were rumors of a new Dead Rising game coming out. But now that the studio that is directly responsible for them, and even in the quote saying that, look, they're focusing on major titles in Japan, it doesn't look very hopeful for fans of Dead Rising, unfortunately. If I'm honest, I never really got into those games. I tried them.
I liked Dead Rising 1, Dead Rising 2, and the two little mini games that was surrounded them. It was Case Zero and Case West, the two sort of like Xbox arcade titles, or just like there were smaller versions of it. Those games are good. When 3 turned up, I didn't like the look of it. It seemed to just rapidly depart from the colourful, over-the-top stuff, and there was still some over-the-top stuff in it, but they sort of hid it and tried to make it seem more gritty and brown.
Yeah, a little bit darker.
And then 4, they just went, yeah, look, we could still be silly, and it's like, we've moved on. Everyone's moved on. Yeah, with the shutdown, you can also read between the lines a bit there. The massive success that they didn't expect of, like, Monster Hunter World, maybe.
That's...
Thinking, maybe we can just get rid of this thing we don't need anymore.
That's still...
Like Monster Hunter.
I find this so amazing still that they wanted to make that game, but yet they didn't really think that the Western market was going to respond that well. That's
the thing. A lot of Japanese companies do the same thing. They just go, oh, the Westerns want like this, they like this thing, and they just got these preconceived notions. But if they actually release their games, that's like if you look at the Yakuza series.
Oh God, yeah.
Taking off, and the company behind that are just like, West one like this, it's Yakuza, it's Japan, it's for Japanese. But they're slowly realising that, yes, we do like this stuff, and if they release it here, they make a lot of money. Now Capcom have done that with Monster Hunter, realising that if they put it on something that isn't a 3DS, more people buy it, and oh, look, we've made the millions. We don't need this.
I just find it so funny, because it's not a new development. I mean, when I was younger, I loved Japanese RPGs, stuff made by Japanese studios. I mean, look, Dragon's Dogma,
But they're so set in their ways, though. I mean,
that's true. Yeah, they are very traditional.
Dark Souls is fought to get like. That was only brought over by, what was it, Atlas? Because nobody else wanted to pick it up and publish it, and because they thought it wouldn't sell well, and it was. Well, look at Dark Souls now; it's a bloody phenomenon. But yeah, then they had to fight to get a PC version because Japan's like, no, don't like PC, only console. And they're slowly learning that, yeah, if we do these things, it will sell. But as a generalization, a lot of Japanese companies are just so set in their ways, and just like, this is the way things are. And they're slowly realizing they're wrong, and they can make a lot more money if they just release their games to the rest of the world.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you say, Monster Hunter World just continues to keep doing well. In fact, this week the Autumn Festival went live.
I believe that went live yesterday.
I think just yesterday. Yeah, I think you're right, just yesterday. Of course, look, if you if you own Monster Hunter World but you haven't been playing it for a while, look, the festivals are a great time to actually revisit, because what the festivals always do is there'll be obviously festival specific, cosmetic items and whatnot, but they also put in all the old quests, like the events that you may have missed during your hiatus. So the festival time's a great time to log back in and check it out. If I can tear myself away from Destiny, then we'll do that. We shall do that. Which, speaking of Destiny, also from PC Gamer, but it's all over social media, obviously, is that Destiny 2 Forsaken's new Gambit multiplayer mode is free for all players this weekend. Now, let me put it in perspective. That doesn't mean that just anyone can play it. You still have to own Destiny 2. It means that if you haven't purchased Forsaken yet, you will be able to play Gambit.
This isn't the first time they did it for free, by the way. They did a free introduction for everyone before Forsaken came out.
That is right. That was just was it one day or was it the weekend?
It was a 1 day sort of thing. It was because of the timing of it. It's like started at 6 p.m. for us and we did it at 6 p.m. the next day. So it felt like 2 days for us. But it was a 24 hours thing.
If you're not familiar with Gambit, it's a PvE/PvP hybrid, where basically 2 teams of 4 are trying to dispatch or kill waves of enemies in order to collect motes that then, when you have said motes, you can then deposit in a bank. As the bank builds up, at certain points you can, depending how many motes you gather, you can send blockers to the other, the enemy team's instance, and then likewise you can also invade the enemy team's instance and then give them some hell. I'm not huge on PvP, but Gambit is enjoyable. It can be frustrating if you're solo queuing and you have horrible teammates, as we know all too well. But if you're playing with your friends, if you have a pre-made fire team, even if it's not a full 4-person team, but, if you've got a fire team of 3 or even just 2 of you, it does, make a world of difference. And if you are going to random or solo queue, look, do everyone a favor and get in voice chat, because, it's a type of game that communicating is quite a big deal. But, the way that it works with the expansions and everything is, to purchase and play Forsaken, you need to own the previous DLCs as well. And with Forsaken coming out now, Gambit is definitely a core part of Forsaken when it comes to things like triumphs, when it comes to your powerful rewards. So basically on September 21st, so today, up until the 23rd at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, it'll be, from the 21st to the 23rd, everyone that owns Destiny 2 will be able to play Gambit. You will have access to all 4 maps, which are Scorn, Fallen, Hyven. It's 5, isn't it? No, it's 4 maps, but then 5 possible enemies. Is that right? Scorn, Fallen, Hive, Red Legion,
Fallen, Hive, Vex as well.
But so there you go. It's free to try. Just try to have some fun with it, and just don't be one of those sleeper simulant people. You can if you want. It's fine, I suppose. But
problem is, it's still possibly the best option for boss damage. So you're going to be packing one, even if you don't intend to use it against the invaders and stuff. You end up will.
It is sad, but
they've already. There was another note in that article that pointed out that Bungie are. They want to keep the full power sleeper simulant, but make it less easy to use because it is very heavy on the aim system. As long as you hit your target, you're most likely going to kill it. So they're going to reduce the aim assist on it.
That'll be quite good, because I
think
think
that will actually work. I don't know.
Well, because the thing is, when you look at most sleeper simulant kills, they are cross map, and
yes,
with that weapon being able to shoot someone in the head, that's like the size of a pin needle, a pinhead. It's all about that aim assist. So I think you're right. I think
the head you have to hit. That's what I find the issue to be.
Yeah. But no, I think you're right. If they remove the aim assist for that, which I'd just be happy if they removed aim assist in full.
They've tied it too hard into the basic core of the game. So
sad, but
they'll
true.
never remove it. But tone it down might help a lot. But
Absolutely.
If only you had like a PTR or something. That'd be sensible.
What concept?
No one's done that.
No, I was going to say, I wonder if other developers have ever considered doing,
What does PTR even mean? What is this acronym?
Hey, well, on the subject of online games, Rockstar made an announcement earlier this week as well about Red Dead Online. So I just sourced an article from Variety.com. And so basically the announcement was saying it was announcing Red Dead Online, which is the online component of the upcoming Red Dead Redemption 2. What they're saying is that this Red Dead Online is an evolution of the original Red Dead Redemption's multiplayer mode, which combines narrative elements with both cooperative as well as competitive gameplay options. Red Dead Online will continue to receive updates throughout its lifecycle as it relies on the base game Red Dead Redemption 2 to exist as its foundation. So quite interesting for those that, want to have that online experience in the Wild West, I suppose.
The original Red Dead Redemption Online was okay, but then you find yourself, I'm just going around and there's a gang of people who just zoom up next to you on horses, shooting the head and bugger off. And that was the majority of the game.
I guess, Kim, when when GTA Online first came out, wasn't it a bit lackluster as well?
It was pretty dull, pretty boring.
Yeah, but that has significantly evolved, hasn't it? Where now...
It's there's so much to do on that now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's making them all the money in the world.
So I would imagine Rockstar, for example, Rockstar isn't like Bungie. They will actually pay attention to
take what they've earned and actually put it in the game.
At least I hope so. I'm just speculating that, but I would imagine that isn't that really what most studios do? Again, the Bungie, exemption, of course.
Build on what they have, yeah.
Yeah, it just seems that's...
Scrap that, start again.
I just kind of keep thinking to myself, okay, so basically, it's going to be like GTA Online, but with horses instead of cars.
With horses and revolvers.
That'll, I've got to be honest, that is... Because Red Dead Redemption 2 really wasn't a game I'm that bothered about, but that kind of makes it, show up on my radar just a little bit more, knowing that it's going to have...
I loved Red Dead Redemption, as most people did. Great game, but it's been so long, I've sort of let Red Dead Redemption 2 sort of fall off the radar, sort of like, yeah, it'll happen eventually, and I'll play it eventually. But this seems quite interesting.
We'll have to see. Because Red Dead Redemption 2 obviously launches in November 18th, or is it? No, I don't think there's an actual date. I think it's just November this year. But there's going to be a public beta at some point. I don't know. Rockstar, they wouldn't lock that behind pre-orders or something, will they? They'll do a full-blown open beta, won't they?
Well, what they're doing is what they call in their beta is basically, if you have Red Dead Redemption 2, because that will come out before this, you'll basically have the public beta.
Okay. Not
and
bad.
That will be free to anyone who purchases Red Dead Redemption 2 across both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Very nice.
So it'll work basically exactly the same as Grand Theft Auto Online.
Forgive me for... Is this a console-only game? Does this not come out on PC?
According to Variety, no.
Because I was thinking it was also coming out on PC, but... Maybe not till later, maybe. Maybe the initial launch will only be a...
Perhaps.
I'll have to... Let's see. Redemption 2.
Wikipedia, that'll help.
Yeah, no. That's just
Only consoles at the minute.
Oh, okay.
No PC. There will be a PC version eventually.
Just eventually. Because, I mean, they did the same with Grand Theft Auto, didn't they? It wasn't initially GTA 5, I mean, stuff.
They kind of just go, consoles first, get that. I'm starting to think behind it might be, they might want to just sort of shore things up, make sure people don't hack it immediately.
That is...
That's the problem in Grand Theft Auto, where people have guns that shoot money at people.
That is fair, I suppose. That is fair.
And it seems that's how they're making most of their money now, is microtransactions and buying shard cards at GTA. Having guns that shoot money at people is not good. Not for them anyway.
Right, one last bit of news. Again, console news, actually, and this is from www.psu.com. There's not much to the article itself. It's just about a little leak that came up. But I thought, we got to have a brief feature about that. And, of course, is about PUBG coming to the PS4. Basically, on the Korean ratings board, the ratings board, ESRB and all that kind of stuff, tells you if a game's mature and whatnot. So on the Korean ratings board, PUBG was listed for a PS4 release. In fact, if I pull up it'll be a bit hard to see, but basically, as you can see, it's all in Hangul, which is the South Korean writing, but right here it says in English characters, PlayerUnknown's Battleground PS4. Of course, PUBG was previously exclusive to Xbox One and PC. Whenever it was announced it was being launched on Xbox One, it was raised, the questions were raised, was it coming to PS4? There was, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Gim, but didn't, at first, they didn't, Brendan Green or whatever, didn't actually comment? So we were kind of in a weird situation where we didn't know if it was actually exclusive to the Xbox or if it was just a timed exclusive.
I always believed it was just going to be a timed exclusive, but I don't remember specifically if Brendan Green actually said anything, or is it Bluehole, the devs? I don't think they said anything.
Yeah, no, that's why I couldn't remember if there was a definitive one way or the other, or if it was just the usual kind of so vague, nothing really said, that people just kind of, started putting things together or whatever, reading between the lines.
I think that's what it was.
But yeah, according to the article says that, look, because now it's been leaked, most likely there's going to be an announcement, which actually, why not? Why don't I just do a quick check? I don't think there's been anything official. I'm just looking on the internet, and yeah, there's just other online news sources, Eurogamer, The Verge, and everything, all basically citing the same source that's been seen on the Koreans rating board. So nothing absolutely definitive. But we'll just have to see. How it will do. I mean, no doubt, folk on PS4 will pick it up, but I'm just curious that how on the Xbox, for example, how PUBG PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds has done in comparison to Fortnite, because I still think on Xbox Fortnite is outperforming it, I would imagine.
Fortnite's outperforming everything, though.
Well, yeah, okay, fair point. Yeah. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if there'll be much of an uptake on PS4. I don't know.
Well, I don't think PUBG has any form of crossplay at the minute, so that's the one thing.
No. Well, sure, so that's good. At least they don't have that issue.
That's the thing that putting people off Fortnite and PS4 is no crossplay, and having your account touch a PS4 locks it.
Yeah, completely knackers it.
Backwards.
Completely knackers it. Yeah. No, I think, well, there you go. PUBG, how much longer? I mean, I know they're trying to, update it with new maps and do things to it. But let's be honest, the Xbox release was pretty sketchy, if we're completely honest. Performance was horrible. It still kind of is. As far as I know, I think the last patch did something.
They've called it full product release now, and I don't think the performance is appreciably improved.
No, there was a patch not long ago for the Xbox One X that's actually lowered the visual quality so it'll perform better. So yeah. So how it's going to run on the PS4, it'll probably run decent on the PS4, but I'm more curious about the PS4 Pro. Because if performance was that horrible on the One X, which is, this is completely unbiased, honestly, it is technologically superior. I'm not sure it'll perform well on the Pro, but the base PS4 definitely does perform better in most games compared to a base Xbox One. So we'll just have to see. We shall just have to see. But yeah, I think that'll do it for Jungle Drums this week. Gim, as always, thank you very much for being on, sir.
It was good.
Always prefer to, not be flying solo when I can. In the meantime, look, you know what to do. Go to www.scholarlygamers.com. As always, there's articles, there's reviews. I do believe we've got some more farming sim news. Ruben's going to be putting stuff out every Friday with these fact sheets about, all the information about the upcoming Farming Simulator 19. There's a really good article the other day there from Mike about Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man game on PS4, and the joys of web slinging in the open world. And if I'm not mistaken, there should be an actual review of Spider-Man, I think maybe live by the time Jungle Drums goes live. I don't know. I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, sorry, apologies. Spoiler alert, there is a review of that coming. And of course, during the weekend, just look for that hashtag Scholarly Gamers. There'll be folk live on Twitch at some point, I'm sure of it. And then next week, I don't know what will be happening content-wise. I know I've got a pair of headphones that I'm wearing at the minute that I need to sit down and write a review of after I've got a few more use case scenarios. I need to do some more testing. That's it. I'm not playing games. I'm not, mucking around by any means. It's all testing. And in fact, Gimboyd is going to help me test for several hours this evening. Playing games. Yes.
Exploring the Dreaming City.
Yes. Anyway, right, folks. Thanks for watching. Make sure to follow Scholarly Gamers on Twitter, on I think we're on the Instagram and the Snapchat, wherever you kids are using these days. Subscribe and like as per usual, and we'll catch you next time.